Annyeong, it's Mikey here, and welcome to my new channel, Mikey Techs. So this is the channel that you're going to be getting more different types of tech reviews. Pretty much anything that's not keyboard related or budget keyboard related will be on this channel. Now the reason budget keyboards are coming to here is because this is a channel where I think more affordable things and budget keyboards will do better here for like gaming purposes or for those that are kind of looking in it but not in the hobby. I think outside of that, Mikey Types is really going to be for more like the mid-range and higher for actual hobbyists that want to keep doing the hobby. Specifically, that channel is focused towards the hobbyists. This one's going to be more focused towards like general public of tech. Now, today I have my first ever review of the Airpods Pro 3. So we have it right here in front of me. We're going to be going in depth with this review and seeing, is this even worth it, right? Is the live translation any good? And if you have an AirPods 1 or 2, should you even look at upgrading? So with Prime Day coming up, let's go check out to see how this is. But please make sure to like and subscribe. So starting off with the unboxing of the AirPods Pro 3. Now, I got this pretty much on the day of release. I went out and got it myself because I was really curious about how this would be, especially since my AirPods Pro 1 has died and I was looking for a replacement, as well as the live translation seemed kind of interesting, specifically for my mom. Now, of course, there wasn't many languages available, but we'll go into that a little bit later. Now, opening this up, AirPods case and packaging has always been pretty decent. I would say that in general, this AirPods looks really nice and you get a really nice packaging and unboxing feel from Apple. You do get some extra ear tips, as you can see here. So I was trying to see if there's a way for me to open this up, but it was a little bit difficult to actually get it open. And I was hoping that it'd be very simple, but maybe I'm just not very smart about that. So as you can see here, you have a total of 4 different sizes, which is really nice to have. The ones that's going to be on there automatically is going to be the medium size, and then the rest is going to be small to large or extra small. So right away, we can see here that honestly, the design hasn't changed that much. Of course, we're going to have to really see it in the ear, but as you can mostly tell, it looks the same, and you have a little bit of like a design change, but other than that, most of it, the case and everything is practically identical. And this thing's only 55 grams in terms of the case and 5 grams in terms of the earphone. So we're gonna have to go into more of a look in terms of the AirPods Pro 3's fit test. What are my thoughts? So let's get closer and let me show you guys the actual fit. As you can see right here, the angle of the AirPods now has changed in terms of going down like this to now facing forwards towards your mouth. So this angle right here, as you can see, is actually not super comfortable. When you put it in your ear, you're almost gonna feel like it's not fitting properly and it feels quite awkward in your ear. The next thing you're gonna notice is that it's not flush anymore. Do you see how much it comes out of my ear on the sides? When you look, it actually comes out quite a lot. If you are someone who's coming from the previous gens, you're gonna feel like this is definitely not comfortable. You're gonna think that why is it so big and why doesn't it fit flush in my ear? You're also gonna think that it's actually gonna fall out of your ears. So let me give you guys a little bit of like that shake test. So luckily it doesn't fall out of the ears. It actually still stays quite in. The only issue with it though is that it just feels quite loose in your ear. It also feels like for myself, I've never had issues with fitment with most earphones. Luckily for me, right? So I'm very lucky where most earphones will still have a very good seal and fits quite snug in my ear. This one does not fit like that. I feel like there is a bit of like this looseness and it doesn't go directly deep into my ear. It feels like it's almost hanging right at the edge of my ear and the ear canal. I'm not sure why they designed it this way, but it definitely feels quite uncomfortable in terms of that because it feels quite loose. It feels like I have something in my ear, but not fully in my ear. It's possibly like I get why it got bigger, right? They added more mics and the things like that, but in terms of the fitment and comfort and like the seal, yeah, it's not going to feel like it's very well sealed. And even if you try to push it in deeper, it won't go in due to how it's shaped. Of course, we'll have to do a mic test after this, but they did add some like mics and to improve with like the hearing for it, especially with, speaking as well as live translation purposes, which I'll also do live translation tests for you guys. But overall, yeah, it doesn't feel as comfortable as the previous gen. And I just feel like in terms of the feeling wise, it feels more out of my ear than normal, and I'm just constantly worried that while I'm moving or running around, it's gonna fall out. Even though it won't, it just feels that way. Now, of course, one of the things, the sound quality tests, right? So I did sound quality checks with like different music. I listened to rap, I've listened to jazz, I've listened to R&B, I've listened to ballads, and then I went to different types of genres like rock as well. And my thoughts is that the bass is heavier. Like they did increase the bass, the sub bass, but it's not a good bass. It almost feels boring and not like oomph. So when I listen to the sub bass, I would like to have a little bit of more of that fun to it and it to really like rumble in a way in my ears, but you don't get any of that rumbling. You get almost like a very boring, like just drum bass. Like that's kind of feels like. It feels like bass guitar sounds are kind of not strong, and then drum sounds like kick drums is a bit more forward, and the middle sounds quite neutral, and then you get a peak around the 8K point and the 9K, like 8 to 10K around their peaks. And when you're listening to voices speaking, it really does peak quite a bit to the point where like my ears start to kind of peak as well and go, what is that? It's not a comfortable peak at all, and I'm not sure why they made the design of the sound like this. The previous gens, I feel like, just sounded a lot better in terms of that, and these ones do not sound very good. In my honest opinion, the Pro 3's sound quality has went down compared to the previous gen in my personal use case and opinion. Of course, I'm a person that prefers like wired IEMs, and this is just for comfort use, but I've also have the Nothing Bud, like Nothing Plus 2, or the Nothing Bud Plus 2, and it feels like I'm not getting that much more sound quality compared to how much I'm spending more, right? These cost me in Canadian $368, so it's quite expensive. And for that price range, I'm not really getting that kind of sound quality. Of course, we'll go have to check the graphs as well and compare it with like the Pro 2s. And of course, I'll do a review on another video for the Nothings, so you guys can kind of get an idea. But let's go right into doing a mic test, checking out the actual AirPods, and seeing like what it's like on the phone. So let's go right into that. So first thing we can take a look here is the graph. And one thing you can really tell with the graph and the frequencies is that the bass is possibly has been increased, but I felt like the bass was kind of strong, but not as good as it used to be. Even though the sub bass has been increased, from my experience with it is that it really doesn't have a nice strong bass anymore, and it feels a little bit boring. Even on the high side right there between the 8 and 10K, I felt that there was a peak that actually did hurt my ears and made my ears kind of bounce, like the actual hair follicles would actually move up and make me feel uncomfortable in that specific range. It was specifically when it was a voice talking, which kind of affected that. Now, these peaks aren't really great, especially even between the 5 and 6K, and you will notice this with these earphones. The AirPods definitely has made a big mistake with the sound quality, and I would say that it hasn't gotten any better than what it used to be. In my own personal experience with it, I feel like it's actually gotten a lot worse. And using it with noise canceling, which by the way, the noise canceling on these AirPods has improved a lot. So you do have a lot more canceled out. And I think in terms of the pressure too, you actually get a lot more pressure. So it feels like you're on the airplane quite more into it and like high levels of say in terms of height, and the pressure does build up, which will be uncomfortable for some people. And if you're very sensitive to that kind of sound, you're not going to be enjoying the AirPods Pro 3. I really think that if they're updating it, they should have done a lot better with this and really improved the quality of sound, but it really feels neutral and boring. So we're going to go in to take a look at the actual app inside of the settings. So as you can see here, we're going in and you can see the battery percentage. It gives you all of that. You also can test the seal. You can go into the website, get a lot more information. You do have like adaptive mode, transparency, noise cancellation. You can also change like the actual settings in terms of the clicks and the press and hold, as well as the different mute control buttons. In terms of like the actual changes you can do, there's not a lot, honestly. And the camera remote is really cool, but I mean, that's very, very seldom that you're going to use it. Especially if you have an Apple Watch, you're most likely not going to use that feature. The conversation awareness is kind of annoying. So I did use it and I found that like in the office space, it just constantly cancels out your music and it makes it really quiet. Also, it's not really polite to really have it on when you are talking to people. Now, this is going to be the list of languages you do have available. So as you can see, you don't have that many languages right now, and I don't know when they're going to add in newer languages. So that was a little bit of a disappointment. I was hoping they would have a bit more. And you also have like the head gestures and the pause when you fall asleep. I mean, those are features if you are someone who wants to keep it in your ears, but I would highly suggest not to have these on when you're falling asleep. And it's going to feel uncomfortable, as you guys saw in terms of the actual fit test. It will not feel comfortable at all, and you might break it. And you can also change the battery, like how it's optimized charging, just to save on the battery life in terms of the long run. And of course, it comes with even the heart rate, which we're gonna have to go take a look to see how is the heart rate of these AirPods. So one thing I noticed right now is like I'm doing the whole BPM testing of my heart rate, and I was actually testing it just by myself. So I was actually getting 80 while this was counting at about 75 to 76. This was of course just manually doing my own heart rate counting, and yeah, you can really kind of see here the difference in terms of the amount. I would say the heart rate on this has not bad in terms of the accuracy. Like you can see here, I'm actually testing my own heart rate here. You can actually do it yourself. Just hold your pulse, feel your pulse, and do it to 15 seconds and count it out. Once you hit 15 seconds, all you have to do is times it by 4. Next, I even tried doing some jumping jacks just to see how my heart rate would go up, and it went to 130, which was about close to correct because I was getting about 132 to 134 in terms of my BPM. And this is after doing like about 60 jumping jacks just to see how my heart rate would go up and see how accurate this would be. So we're going to go through using Apple's live translation just to show you guys how accurate it is and how does it work. So the first thing you can tell right away is this is the app, and it kind of looks similar to Google Translate. And then on the bottom right here, you can see live. When you click on live, you can use live translation. And by the way, even the AirPods Pro 2 are supported by this. So you don't need the Pro 3s just to try live translation. So right away, we're going to go into actually doing it. And I'm actually going to be using ChatGPT to give you guys a actual live translation and vocals that could actually give you guys a bit of sound. So this way you can also hear what Apple is doing in terms of like the AirPods live translation and listen to what we're hearing in terms of it. So the first test is going to be in German, and I'll do Spanish, and then we'll go on to French and more. So one thing I did notice is usually it's a little bit delayed in terms of giving you the actual sound and the vocals of the translation.
Here's a long, complex German and perfect. Protesting live translation on Urier Pro 3. Open quote. Although I usually try to express my thoughts clearly and structured, it is sometimes difficult for me to speak spontaneously in a foreign language. Especially when the sentences become longer, and at the same time you have to make sure that grammar, emphasis, and word choice are reasonably natural. Close. Uig. Here's another long and challenging German sentence. Perfect for Ting comprehension and pronunciation. Open quote. Considering how quickly technology has developed in recent years, one could almost believe that we are already in a future that used to exist only in science fiction films. Nederlands to test your pod translation. Opote. Even if technology makes our lives easier in respects, it sometimes pushes us to go so fast that we forget to take the time to think about what we really do and why we do it. Here you have a paragraph in Spanish with a somewhat complex grammatical structure and with advanced vocabulary. Although many argue that modern technology has simplified everyday life, some experts argue that excessive dependence on digital devices has generated an emotional disconnection between people, while we surf endlessly through social networks in search of approval or distraction. We often forget the importance of real human interactions and the value of reflective silence. However, this phenomenon cannot be analyzed in isolation. It is deeply linked to socioeconomic, cultural, and psychological factors that shape our perception of well-being. Ultimately, this phenomenon is not analyzed in isolation. However, this phenomenon cannot be linked to in a way. It is deeply analyzed in isolation. However, it is deeply linked. It is deeply linked to socioeconomic. It is deeply linked to socioeconomic, cultural. Good afternoon, my general.
So overall, I think that, you know what, these live translations actually not bad. I think in overall experience with it is that it's about 85% there, but of course it's still lacking in certain aspects. And I think over time it will get a lot better. But does that mean it's worth getting the AirPods Pro 3 now? Not really, not at the 368 Canadian that I paid. And finishing off, kind of giving you guys a little bit of the measurements in terms of the actual AirPods, in terms of the size and everything. I really feel that these AirPods just aren't amazing in terms of the actual price. I don't think it's really worth the upgrade. And as you can see here, in terms of like the length of the case, yes, it's got a little bit longer, it's gotten a little bit thinner, but overall, I don't feel that honestly these upgrades aren't worth your money. If I were you, I would probably save your money. As I said, the noise canceling is gotten better, but it's still not the point where I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't hear anything at all. No, I still hear people typing, I still hear some voices. And yes, this earpod is also gotten bigger. The AirPods are actually a little bit more uncomfortable, sticks out more, and the angle's quite annoying. It feels like you have something so big in your ears when it shouldn't feel like that. And I really didn't feel that these sounded any better. I would say overall, like, you're not really missing out if you have an AirPods Pro 2 or you have a Pro 1. I think I actually preferred the sound quality of my Pro 1s more than the Pro 3s. The mic quality as well doesn't seem like it's that great. My memories, I remember the Pro 1s had a really decent mic to it, but these Pro 3s, mic quality is really horrible. Like, I really didn't feel that they were any good. And even right now, as I'm going to give you guys a mic test of it as well, you'll hear it. Mic check, mic check. This is going to be the AirPods Pro 3 mic test, and we're going to be doing right now with the transparency mode, but of course let's change with the noise cancellation mode on. And can you guys really hear any difference with the mic at all? Are you guys able to hear any of the sounds that I'm, touching stuff and moving things around with background noises? Mic check. So this is going to be my mic test with background noise. I don't know if you guys can really hear the cafe background noise around me as I'm doing the mic test. So hopefully this noise cancellation mode really does help with that mic test. So as you could tell, the mic test, even with the coffee shop, wasn't great. It is nice that it does have the magnetic hold and you can charge it wirelessly. That is actually with my MagSafe charger, so you can see here it was sticking nicely. Overall, I would highly suggest that you get a case. It does still actually stick to the back of a phone, so you can't charge it with the back of your iPhone, which by the way, I have an iPhone Pro Max 15. And yeah, I would say overall, the AirPods Pro 3 was a little bit disappointing, and I don't think that it's going to be super worth your time. With the current Prime Day sales coming up, which I'll link in the description, you can actually get the Pro 2s for a lot cheaper, like save $100, which is going to be much more worth it. I would highly suggest getting a case though, because this thing gets very, very dirty. It collects dust really easily. Overall, maybe skip this one. I hope this video helped you guys to see, is the AirPods Pro 3 even worth it? And is it worth an upgrade? Now, we have the Prime Day sale coming up, and I know the AirPods Pro 2 are on sale, and they're actually at a really decent price. I would say, honestly, the Pro 3s, if you're not looking for that live translation right now, you shouldn't get it. Even the Pro 2s can technically do live translation, by the way. So I know that the Pro 3s is been advertised for the live translation, but when you go on the live translation app, the Pro 2s are actually also supported. So should you get the Pro 3s? Is it worth it? And do the mics really make that much of a difference? I'm not sure about how the Pro 2s are with the mics, but I don't think that the Pro 3s are actually that worth of an upgrade right now. If you have the Pro 2s, stick with it. Don't even think about upgrading because it's not worth it right now. I would say wait for the next gen of the Pros instead and skip out on this one. If you don't have one and you're coming from the Pro 1s, it makes sense to make that change. But on sale, you could technically get the Pro 2s for $100 cheaper. So maybe that's the route to go instead. If you really do want to get the Pro 3s, you can definitely check them out yourselves as well. I would say they're kind of worth it, but I would probably skip to the next gen. I think these ones are not worth your time, and the live translation is cool, but there's not enough languages yet anyway, so maybe hold off and see which ones you should grab. So keep your eyes out. Maybe these will go on sale as well in like Black Friday, or we'll see how things go. But check out my new other channel as well, Mikey Types, or wait to see next video that's coming on this channel on Mikey Techs, and please make sure to like and subscribe.